In this video, we're going to be talking about properties from algebra, and we want to think about what some of the properties are that are used when solving equations. And here they are. They are the addition property. It says if A equals B, then A plus C equals B plus C. That just basically means that you can add the same thing to both sides of the equation. Subtraction property, if A equals B, then A minus C equals B minus C. So that says you can subtract the same thing from both sides of the equation. Multiplication property, if A equals B, then A times C equals B times C. So that's saying you can multiply both sides of your equation by the same quantity. Division property, if A equals B, then A divided by C equals B divided by C. So that means that you can divide each side of the equation by the same amount. The reflexive property. This says for any real number A equals A. It just basically says that anything is equal to itself. Same idea. Symmetric property. If A equals B, then B equals A. Really, it doesn't, you can flip your equation around. And the transitive property. If A equals B, and B equals C, then A would also have to be equal to C. Moving on to the next page. The substitution property. If A equals B, then A can be substituted for B in any equation or expression. And the distributive property. A times, in parentheses, B plus C is equal to A times B plus A times C. You just distribute. All right, so let's just refresh our memories on how we solve equations. So in this problem, 5x minus 18 equals 3x minus 2. We want to get all of the variables on the same side. So let's subtract 3x from each side. So when we do that, we have 2x minus 18 equals negative 2. So we want to get rid of everything around the x, so let's add 18 to both sides. Notice we're doing the same thing to both sides at all times. The 18s cancel and you have 2x equals 16. Get rid of the 2 in front of the x by dividing each side by 2. And x equals 8. Now let's try solving the next equation. 55z minus 3 times 9z plus 12 equals negative 64. We need to get rid of the parentheses, so we're going to use that distributive property. Remember, this really is a negative 3, so we're going to say negative 3 times 9z is negative 27z. Negative 3 times 12 is negative 36. Bring down the 55z. And all of that equals negative 64. We need to combine any like terms that we can on the same side before we start solving. So 55z minus 27z gives you 28z. Minus 36 equals negative 64. We want to get z alone by adding 36 to each side. The 36 cancels. And we have 28z equals negative 64 plus 36, which gives us negative 28. We get z alone by dividing each side by 28. 28's cancel, and we end up with z equals negative 1. So that was just a quick refresher on solving equations. Let's move on to the next page. Some of the new properties that you're seeing here. The reflexive property. Any term is equal to itself. In other words, if you had a statement like the measure of AB equals the measure of AB, or the length of AB equals the length of AB, or the measure of angle R equals the measure of angle R, anything is equal to itself. Symmetric property just changes the order. If AB equals CD, then CD equals AB. Transitive property, It's similar to the substitution property. If AB equals CD and CD equals EF, then AB is equal to EF. Now we're going to start doing some proofs. We're going to do a 2-column algebraic proof. And what we're going to do here, on the left-hand side, we're going to list statements. And on the right-hand side, we're going to list reasons. Why can we make those statements? And what we're going to do, first of all, usually the very first thing that you write down for a statement is what you're given. And this is the problem we're given. 2 times, in parentheses, 3x plus 1 equals 5x plus 14. What we want to prove is that x, in this case, equals 12. We're going to do that by solving the equation and giving a reason for each step. So let's start by writing down what we're given. 2 times, in parentheses, 3x plus 1 equals 5x plus 14. The reason we can make that statement, that's the problem we're given. So just write down given. The second step. What we need to do is get rid of those parentheses. So we're going to use the distributive property, and we're going to say 2 times 3x is 6x, 2 times 1 is 2. And that gives us what's on the other side, 5x plus 14. The reason we could come up with this next step is we used the distributive property. Third step. We need to start solving, so we need to get x alone. So let's get all the x's on the same side. Now if you want to just write this in here to remind you what you're doing, you're going to subtract 5x from each side. Okay, so what you're going to have for your next step is your result. 6x minus 5x gives you just x. You're left with x plus 2 equals 14. The reason you got to that next step is you used the subtraction property. Fourth step. We want to continue with our solving. We'll think about the next thing that we're going to do. We're going to subtract 2 from each side. So when we do that, we are going to end up with the 2's canceling on the left, and we'll just have x equals 12. That's exactly what we were trying to prove. The reason we got to that last step was we did what? We subtracted from both sides, so we used that subtraction property again. And we've ended up with what we were trying to prove, so we're all done. Let's go on to the next page. We have another algebraic proof. You're going to be given, in this case, that a is equal to 1/3, and that 16 is equal to a times, in parentheses, 18 plus 6y, and you're asked to prove that y equals 5. So again, we're going to write down our statements and our reasons. So let's write down, first of all, what we're given. We can first of all say a is equal to 1/3 because we're given that information. We can also say that 16 is equal to a times 18 plus 6y, and that is also given to us. Now, what we'd like to do is take this value of a equal to 1/3 and substitute it into the equation in place of a. So we're going to have 16 is equal to 1/3 times, in parentheses, 18 plus 6y. Now what did we do to make us able to write that statement? We used substitution, or in other words, the substitution property. Now the fourth step. We need to get ready to solve, to figure out what y is. So we are going to have to use our distributive property to get rid of the parentheses. So let's do that. So we've got 16 equals, we're going to say 1/3 times 18, which is 6, and 1/3 times 6y, which is 2y. The reason we can make that statement is we just distributed. We used the distributive property. Fifth step, we need to start solving. So let's think about what we're going to have to do to each side of the equation. To get y alone, we're going to have to subtract 6 from each side. So we're going to end up with 10 equals 2y. The reason we come up with that statement is we just subtracted. So we used the subtraction property. Next, we still want to continue to solve. So to get y alone, we're going to have to divide each side by 2, which means we're going to end up with 5 equal to y. The reason we can say that is we just divided on each side by 2, so we used the division property. Now looking back to the original problem, it asked us to prove that y was equal to 5, and that's exactly what we did in our last statement. So we are done with this algebraic proof. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.